Okay, so thank you very much for your patience and participation. So today we are going to talk about Creole, as we have already come to know about what is Pidgin. Can you give me any example of Pidgin language? Any name of the Pidgin language? In which part of the world actually we find more Pidgin languages and why?
So it's Chinese
Africa?
Pigeon Language.
That is Chinese English Pidgin. Chinese
Yes, sir.
English Pidgin.
English Pigeon.
Exactly. Okay. Yes, and any other name? And which part of the world actually we find Pidgin languages more? Where it is found more?
So Nigerian Pigeon English.
Exactly, Nigerian English. That is also Pidgin. That's right. Then talk Pidgin, and talk Pidgin is used in which part of? I mean, in which country? Can you give me the name of the country where actually this talk Pidgin has been used? Papua New Guinea, right?
Sir, Africa.
German. Africa.
Papua New Guinea. Okay, and especially in African countries, we find more Pidgin language than the other parts of the world. And what is the reason? What is the reason behind it?
Black
Why?
people and white
For
people.
communication.
Why do we find Pidgin languages more in African nations than the rest of the world? What's the reason?
The black people has another language and the white people has another. White people dominance there.
Okay, now if I ask you the question, these English people, they ruled us from 1757 to 1947, approximately 200 years, precisely 190 years. Did we have any Pidgin at that time in Indian subcontinent? British Empire ruled our country almost 200 years, precisely 190 years. Did we have pigeons at that time? Did we have pigeons at that time?
No, sir.
Why not?
Sir,
Why
in our country?
Why in our country? What? Do we have pigeons in our country?
Yes, sir, because Pakistan ruled our country on that
Okay.
time.
Okay, then what is the name of that pigeon?
So,
What is the name of that pigeon language? That you are saying that in Bangladesh we have a pigeon language. What is the name of that language? And who are the people using that language?
would
Why are the people that use that language?
sir,
Go on.
we had
That is pigeon. Urdu speakers, I mean, they
no,
are
sir.
using that is pigeon language. Do you understand Hindi? Do you understand Hindi?
So some
And can you use that language? I mean, can you communicate in Hindi?
no, sir.
You can't communicate. Do you need Hindi?
Yes.
Do you need that language?
No, sir.
Then
No,
you
sir.
then you don't need to have any pigeon. In Bangladesh, you don't have any pigeon language. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So, what is the reason that in African countries we find more pigeon language than the rest of the world? Yesterday, I told you
Sir,
that.
most of the time business purpose.
You remember that yesterday I told you that these Spanish people, Spanish nations, and also Portuguese and French and English people, they colonized most of the African countries. And when they colonized, they tried to impose their language. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 different dominant languages, dominant nations. They tried to have their dominance on the same locals, I mean, the native people. So as a result, native people, they had to cope up with both the languages. And that's why we can see we have more pigeons in African countries. And especially it's political. It's only about slavery, oppression. For all this research actually we see, and also it's business. Because at that time, those countries were very much weak and they were, naturally, they're very resourceful. So as a result, Because of the business purpose, they went there first, but later on, it became very much political. So from economy to political, and the progression is that they simply, establish their dominance over the, locals and the native nations. So that's why we can see, because of this economic and political situations or political reasons, these African countries, they were colonized more than the rest, other countries in Asia and, or in Europe. And because of this, we can see that the existence of Pigeon languages are found more in these nations than the rest of the world. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. Now, today we'll start our discussion with Creole. Now, as you can see on the screen, in contrast to a Pigeon, a Creole is often defined as a Pigeon that has become the first language of a new generation of speakers. Atchison, he says, Creoles arise when Pigeons become mother tongues. So a Creole, therefore, is a normal language in almost every sense. Holmes says that a Creole is a Pigeon which has expanded in a structure and vocabulary to express the range of meanings and serve the range of functions required of the first language. So you see, first we get Pigeons, and it's a kind of customized language. It's a kind of man-made language, we can say. A language, it's a contact language, completely used for business purpose and trade and for commercial transaction. But when this language, it is adopted by the next generations, and they started using it just like their mother tongue, and with some changes, just like the regular language. So when Pidgin as a language, it is used just as a mother tongue, and also it has regular, this grammar, vocabulary, all these, functions of the language. When these are found in Pidgins, then that Pidgin will be termed as Creole. So Creole is actually that we get from Pidgins. So if you really want to have a Creole language, then first you have to have the Pigeon language. So without Pigeon, you cannot have a Creole. So Creole, actually, that is the regular formation of a language, and that language is formed from Pigeon. Understood?
Yes, sir.
So, all right. As you said, yes, sir. So can you explain it? What did I say? What I have said. So just explain it. And what is a Creole?
Sir, there is comes in, and it's a regular language, but when it is adapted for next generation and they use like their mother tongue, and the grammatical and vocabulary are structured, then it's called Creole.
Exactly. So Creole, actually, it has Pidgin is a irregular language, or you can see it's not a normal kind of language. It's a kind of reduced version of the regular language. But when that Pidgin, it has been regularized and used by the speakers, the generations after generations, then it is formed, from Pidgins, then it will be turned into Creole. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, that's great. Now, in the next slide, you can see, in practice, it is not always easy to say whether we have a Pidgin rather than a Creole. I can tell you one thing, and I hope that you'll find it interesting, that every Creole is a Pidgin, but not all Pidgins are Creoles. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Every Creole is a Pidgin, but not all Pidgins are Creoles. Because not all Pidgins are embraced as the mother tongue by the locals. Very few Pidgins, those are adopted as the mother tongue, and the generations after generations, they're using it just like the mother tongue. Now, earlier, when it started as, when it had its existence as a language, then it started as a Pidgin. But later on, because of the use of the people by the locals, then it turned into a different language. So it became a complete language. Then we call it Creole. Okay? So now here it says, in practice, it is not always easy to say whether we have a Pidgin rather than a Creole. So sometimes will find it very difficult to demarcate the line between Pidgin and the Creole. So you cannot say that this one is Creole and this one is Pidgin, or this one is Pidgin, this one is Creole. So sometimes it's quite confusing because of their syntactical structures, syntax, and also because of their vocabulary and also other grammatical functions. So we cannot determine the difference between these two. Talk Pidgin and some of the West African Pidgins, such as Nigerian Pigeon English, probably exist as both Pidgins and Creoles. So you see Talk Pidgin and also some other West African Pidgins and also Nigerian Pigeon English. So they exist as Creoles, and also we can call them Pidgins. Okay? Is it okay? Well, now they have speakers who use them only as second languages in an expanded form, and also speakers for whom they are first languages. So they have speakers who use them only as second languages. So you can see in Nigeria, there are people who will use English, and also they will use this Nigerian Pidgin English. So sometimes they have their own mother tongue, especially their tribal languages. And then you can also find that they're also using these Pidgin English. So these Pidgin English, to them, that is a second language because they're very fluent in that language, but that is not their mother tongue, but they can use it as a mother tongue with the people from other tribes or other group of other community. But at the same time, they have their own mother tongue. So the mother tongue is the first language, and this Pidgin version of the language, that is their second language. So sometimes we can say that Pidgin is the second language of some community or some nations, to some nations, okay?
Okay, sir.
All right, good, that's great. Now, such expanded varieties are often characteristic of urban environment in which there is likely to be considerable contact among speakers of different languages and are sometimes referred to as extended pidgins. So where actually we can find this, this situation of context? We can find this kind of context that where people are using their mother tongue at the same time, they're also using Pidgin as a second language. And usually it is found in the urban areas, especially in the societies, developed areas. Because in the urban areas, people from different sects of life and trade and profession or vocation, whatever you say, so they come together because of their personal need or their individual need. So they come to the, in urban cities. And in urban areas, there you can find that people are from different parts of the country and they're speaking in a different dialect. They're using different kinds of languages. So in that kind of environment, then you can find the extended pidgins because people, most of them, they try to use the same English, which is a pidgin version, so that they can communicate quite easily and without not being understood. That is just to make it communicable, their ideas, to make it communicable, transferable, they use these special kind of pidgins that we call extended pidgins. Understood? If you go to Dhaka, the capital city of Bangladesh, if you go there, then you can find that people from different walks of life and also from different vocations or professions, you can find that they are there and they are coming from different districts, right? So they're using different kinds of languages. But since actually we have only English, we have only the one language, that is Bangla. And most of us actually, we don't use English as a language for communication, a language of communication. So that's why we understand almost all the dialects of the same language that we're saying, that is Bangla. Isn't it? If a man from Noakhali or Feni or from Barisal or from Joshua or Shakti or Khulna or from Dhaka. So if you're in a community where actually you can find, or if you're in a company of your friends, but you can see that some of your friends are from different parts of the country. Some are from Sylhet, some are from Chittagong, some are from Barishal or Feni, Lakshipur or Khulna or Chhatra or from Bogura or from Nilphamari maybe or Dinashpur, so or Rangpur. So you can see they are communicating and nobody has any problem to understand one another, right? We're using our own dialect, but still we can understand each other. Do you get my point, what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And this situation is found in big urban cities or mega cities, just like Dhaka, Chittagong, or some other divisional cities that we have. But in other cities, we don't see this because we find the homogeneity of the profession and of also their community. So as a result, if it is not an urban or mega city, you can't find people from different walks of life. Usually, most of them, for example, in Nil family, you can find all of them are locals. So they have the same language, so they don't need any other dialect or any other pidgins. So why actually it is saying that? That in the urban areas, we can find the extended pidgins as we can find dialects in our urban cities, right? Except in the language of Chittagong and Sylhet, sometimes we will find it very difficult to understand. We need translation. Do you understand what I'm saying? বলা হচ্ছে যে ক্রেওল আমরা কোথায় পাবো? বড় বড় শহরগুলোতে পাবো। কারণ শহরে মানুষ বিভিন্ন কাজে, কর্মের উদ্দেশ্যে, দাপ্তরিক কাজে তারা শহরে আসেন। বিভিন্ন যে স্টেট থেকে আসেন তখন তাদের সাথে তারা তাদের ভাষা বলছেন। এবং ঢাকাতে গেলে আমরা দেখতেই পাই এক একজন এক এক ডায়ালেক্ট বলছেন। কিন্তু যেহেতু আমাদের একটাই ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ এবং বিভিন্ন ডায়ালেক্ট থাকলেও তেমন সমস্যা না, আমরা সবাইকে বুঝি। শুধুমাত্র চিটাগং আর সিলেটটা মাঝে মাঝে একটু ঝামেলা হয়ে যায় কারণ ওদের ভাষাটা ট্রান্সলেশন বুঝতে পারি। তো এই একই কারণে আমরা বলতে পারি যে ক্রেওল এই আরবান সিটিজগুলোতে বেশি অ্যাভেলেবল, সেখানে কিন্তু অন্য জায়গায় তেমন দেখতে পাই। Now, Winfield says that creoles constitute a motley assortment of contact vernaculars with different histories and lines of development, though of course they still have much in common. There are no structural characteristics that all creoles share, and no structural criteria that can distinguish creoles from other types of language. So creoles constitute a motley assortment of contact vernaculars with different histories and lines of development. So you can see contact vernaculars, that means the locals, the natives. So the locals and the natives, it's a motley of assortment. That means variation is there. Different kinds of, that means a diversity of languages you can find there, as he's saying. So that's why in the creoles, you can find that there are different kinds of sentence structure and different kinds of historical background or circumstances and different kinds of context. That's why we can find the lines of development is also different. Okay, so in the creoles, you can find different things, different stuff from different languages, borrowed from different languages. So there are no structural characteristics that all creoles share. And as a result, as creole is constituted by borrowing from different other languages, so you cannot specifically say that creoles, all the creoles, they have the same kind of rules of formation or rules of evolution. So they don't evolve with the same kind of rules. For example, creoles which are being used in African nations and creoles which are being used in Asia or in Latin America, we cannot say that all these creoles in their development, they follow the same trend or same tendencies. We can't say that. So creoles, since their structures, vocabulary, and linguistic functions, as they are different, so creoles from different parts of the world, we cannot determine or we cannot demarcate any universal kind of rules that how creoles are evolved. We cannot say that. Do you get my point, what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Was
sir.
it clear? If you don't understand, then I can explain it again. All right, then in that case, I will jump to the next slide. Just like a pidgin, a creole has no simple relationship to the usually standardized language with which it is associated. And because of this, that we have seen that the motley assortment, so assortment means different kinds of things are put together, but they are not similar. Okay, and motley means diverse, multiple, different kinds of. Okay, so all because of this reason only, you can say, even there are many other reasons, but only because of this reason, if you only take this reason, you can say that has no simple relationship to the usually standardized language with which it is associated. So for example, I'm just giving an example. X is a creole, and Y is the standardized language. So we cannot say quite surely, or we cannot be sure that this creole, Y, this creole this Creole X, it has similarities, or it has semblances with the original language, or with the standard language line. We cannot say that because Creoles actually it has its own mind. It is formulated in its own way by the individual speakers. So altogether, actually, they are forming these Creoles. So these Creoles actually, when it is formed, we can see that rarely it has the, exactness of semblance with the main language, or with the original language, or the standard language. So we cannot say that, we cannot find it in that. We cannot say that this is very close to this standard language. We cannot say that because Creole is quite, it's very much, variegated, and it is very, you can say full of diversity. So that's why we cannot say anything universal about this language. If a variety of Pidgin English has a complex relationship to standard English. So Haitian Creole, see, if a variety of Pidgin English has a complex relationship to standard English. So Haitian Creole, which is French-based, has a complex relationship to standard French. Even if it has any relationship with standard language that it followed when actually it was constituted, even in some in cases you will find that the letter relationship is quite different. Is still another way from the relationship between Jamaican Creole, which is English-based, and standard English. To try to understand it, Haitian Creole actually it has semblance or similarities with French language. Maybe it was colonized by the French. So that's all. So relationship to standard English. So there is a standard English there. So Haitian Creole, which is French-based. So you see, the Haitian Creole actually it is based, or you can say it is formulated. Formulated in accordance with the French-based language. So sometimes you can find there is a relationship, but that relationship is very complex. That is very complex, very difficult. So Haitian Creole, French-based, but with the French language, it has a very complicated relationship. As we will say, the letter relationship is quite different in still another way from the relationship between Jamaican Creole, which is English-based, and standard English. But in the Jamaican Creole, you can find that there is a relationship between English and Jamaican Creole. You can find it there. Then next, here you see, however, speakers of Creoles, like speakers of Pidgins, may well feel that they speak something less than normal languages because of the way they and others view those languages when they compare with languages such as French and English. So, however, the speakers of Creoles, like speakers of Pidgins, so you can see the speakers of Creoles and the Pidgins, they are different, but they have some semblance or similarities between these two languages. Speakers of these two languages may well feel that they speak something less than normal languages because of the way they and others view those languages when they compare them with languages such as French and English. So you see that speakers of both of these languages, Creoles and Pidgins, they actually they experience a kind of inferiority, you can say, inferiority complex they have. Okay, sorry, I got disconnected. Now I'm back. All right. So, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's a relief. Now, so as I was saying, that the speakers of the Creoles and Pidgins actually, what should I say, a kind of inferiority complex that they have, because they feel that they are not using the proper language. They are not using the original language or the standard language. Even when they compare their language with the standard language, they can find the differences between these, Creoles or the Pidgins, whatever actually they're using, and they feel a kind of shame, or you can say they don't feel good about it. That yes, we're not using the proper language. Our language is not exactly the standard language. So they can feel it. That's why he says that they speak something less than normal languages. So they feel that they're speaking a language and that is less than the normal language. That is the reduced version of the standard language. They can feel it. Okay. All right.
Okay, sir.
Okay, that's great. Now, the result is that the many millions of people who speak almost nothing but Creole languages, the estimates range from a low of 6 to 7 million to as many as 10 to 17 million people. So you see 17 million people at best, actually, they are using this language because people don't have a good feeling about this using this language. So that's why uh, unless and until actually you're compelled to use that language for basic communication, they are not using Creoles. But you can see Haitian Creoles and also Nigerian English, or you can say Nigerian Pigeon English. It is still used by people. I mean, in Nigeria and also, I mean, in those parts of the world. So, in fact, as mentioned above, it was only very recently that linguists themselves, those who try to be most objective and least oriented toward making value judgments on linguistic matters, have found Creoles worthy of serious scholarly attention. So you see, some scholars, some linguists, Bhashavi, some linguists, they try to be very much objective without being biased. So they were trying to be impartial and through their researches, without being judgmental or without, I mean, devaluate their language, or you can say to undermine the value of the language. So without doing that, they conducted researches and they found that Creoles, they are also worthy of serious attention. So you can also do research work on this language because they have evolved, those Creoles have evolved as separate languages because of the usage of those languages. And those languages were used by people generations after generations. Though the number is very few, I mean, if you compare this with the standard language, there is only 10 to 17 million people at best. They're using Creoles and Pidgins in different parts of the world, especially in the African nations and also some people, some communities in Latin America. So you can see, though actually number is very few, but still you cannot ignore them as, as language. They exist, and you simply can't deny their existence. So that's why linguists say that we can do some research work, and they are saying that they also, they're also worthy of serious attention, scholarly attention. That means you can do some scholarly research work in the academic area, on those languages. So we cannot ignore them. We cannot say that, oh, they're not languages, proper languages. They're just Creoles and Pidgins. They're customized language. They're languages only used for contact. So you cannot just ignore their importance in such a way. You have to give importance because now they are regarded as language. Now, some quick definitions. I have already explained this. What is Pidgin? What is Creole? I'll just explain this term that is called relaxification. You see, the relaxification is the process of substituting new vocabulary of old. Pigeons may get relaxified with the new English vocabulary to replace the previous Portuguese vocabulary, and so on, etc. So you see, these, for example, they have given an example that if there is a pigeon and that pigeon is heavily dominated or influenced by Portuguese, so the people now who are using that pidgin, they are trying to replace those Portuguese words with English. That's why it is called relaxification. And the process that we're doing, we call it that get relaxified. So we will have new lexicon or new words, new vocabulary for the purpose of, just to, you can say to have a new taste or to make it more communicable, to make it more easy or more acceptable or standard. So they are replacing Portuguese vocabulary with English vocabulary. Understood? So this process is called relaxification. That means you have one Pidgin or one Creole, and you are using the vocabulary from different other languages, and then you are trying to replace those languages with them. For example, English is more powerful now, and that is more essential for, if you really want to make a mark in the global circumstances, global context. So in that case, you may feel the need or necessity to replace the existing Portuguese words and vocabulary in your Pidgins with the English words. Do you get the point? What I'm trying to make here?
Yes, sir.
Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
It's from the lexis or lexicon. It's from there. That means words. Changing vocabulary. That is the idea. Okay? Was it clear?
Clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, if you have any question, then I will answer those. Otherwise, I would like to conclude our today's session. So do you have any question? Or any opinion? Any opinion? Any suggestion? Anything
Yes, sir.
that you'd like to add to today's discussion? Anything? Nothing? That means you have understood everything from my today's discussion, right?
Right, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you don't say anything, then I'll assume that, obviously. Right. Okay, in that case, thank you very much. Thanks for your cooperation and for your patience. As I mentioned it at the beginning of the class, you waited a long time because I started our class today a little bit late, and I'm extremely sorry for that. But in any way, I'm very happy that I could complete today's lecture. So thank you, and see you next time, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Take care of yourself and have a good day.